ओम पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते. So welcome to our Saturday morning session. We shall continue on our journey of Bhagavad Gita chapter 10 verses 27 onwards. This chapter actually takes us on a journey of this world and how we can see the Almighty in the world. Because, many people who either doubt the existence of Almighty or who do not believe in it, they keep asking us, show me the Almighty, show me the Bhagwan, show me the God. And for those people, if they want to see the Almighty in this world, then obviously these are various symbols through which they can engage into the world and get a glimpse of the Almighty. So we will continue now, verse number 37. वृष्णि वंशियों में वासुदेव अर्थात मैं स्वयं तेरा सखा, पांडवों में धनंजय, मुनियों में वेदव्यास और कवियों में शुक्राचार्य कवि मैं ही हूं. Now he gave many examples of different realities of the world. He said that I'm in the mountains, I'm in the rivers, I'm in the snakes, and I'm in the animals, and I'm in the fishes, and I'm also in human beings. But now he's coming closer. He says Vrashni Vanshyo, that is the dynasty in which Lord Krishna was born. He says in that particular dynasty, you can see me as the Almighty because I'm the culmination. Now, Vrashni once, we know, is known because of Lord Krishna. If he had not been there, nobody would have known that. So, the history of Vrashni once, Lord Krishna is what you can call the culmination of that once, and therefore he says that I am there, you can see me there. That is the culmination of the power of the Almighty. Then in Pandava mein Dhananjay, now if you look at the dynasty of Pandav, I'm not talking about Kuru dynasty, I'm talking about Pandav dynasty. Among the 5 brothers of Pandavas and their successors, Arjun stands out. So Arjun obviously shows or demonstrates the culmination of the godly power in that dynasty. And here he is not only demonstrating that, he is also saying that you can see the Almighty in your own self. You don't have to look around in the world, but you can see it in your own self. Now, I want to clarify one issue here. You see, the whole existence we recognize because of our consciousness. If there is no consciousness in us, the world does not exist for us. World may exist, in reality, in physical sense, but it does not exist in us until and unless we get consciousness. Once the consciousness leaves, the world is nothing for us. It doesn't exist anymore. Even in the deep sleep, when we are absolutely, still we are in a consciousness, but in a form of total sleep. Even there, the world does not exist. So the existence of the world, existence of you, existence of me, existence of rivers and mountains, and existence of moons and sun, all that actually depends on our consciousness. And that consciousness is what you can call is the God. That is what we are looking for. And here Lord Krishna is saying that you can look at the God you can look God in your own self. That is what he's saying to Arjuna in this verse. Then, of course, Vedvyas was very well known rishi at that time. So he says, if you want to see me in Muniyas or rishis, then it is Vedvyas, who was actually alive in those days, and he was uh, showing the what you can call the pinnacle of a rishi. He could tell you uh, the past and the future, and he can tell you how the world will conduct and how you should behave. So obviously he was at the pinnacle of that power of the god, and that is why you can see me in Vedvyas. And then Kavyo mein Sukracharya. Now Sukracharya is, on the one hand, he was a great poet, but he was uh, also a teacher, and he was a teacher of the Rakshas dynasty. But that was a different story why he became a teacher of the Danvaj. But he had certain, excellent qualities. He went through a tapasya which is unparalleled in the history of humankind. You will see that in Vishnu Puran. So he was one of the persons who had that great knowledge, and also he was a great poet. And that is why he said that you can see the glimpse of the God in those souls who gave so much to this world. So here, all these indications are basically the culmination of godly power in human beings. We also see in human beings the godly power. There are people who have contributed. Like even if we look at Mahatma Gandhi, or we look at, for example, uh, uh, you know, persons like our Ramakrishna Paramhans. Now, those people had demonstrated godly power in the very existence, or in the very, existence of a human being. So you can see that godly power in the world all around. Now he is going to certain other aspects where you can see the godly power in verse number 38. मैं दमन करने वालों का दंड, जीतने वालों की इच्छा शक्ति, गुप्त रहने योग्य भावों में मौन, और ज्ञानवानों का तत्व ज्ञान भी मैं ही. Now he is saying that you can see the godly power, दमन करने वालों का दंड. How you control, anarchic situation, you control that through control, through giving punishment. Now he says that power of the punishment is me. It is not the giving punishment to XYZ, but the power which gives punishment is me. Then he says, जीतने वालों की इच्छा शक्ति. Now, how do you win? The winning is not through technology. Winning is always through the, what you call determination of a human being. For example, people say the war is not fought only on the, basis of aircrafts and missiles and, bullets, but behind all those is a power of the human being, the determination of the people who are fighting, that decides the winning. So this is what he's saying, that determining desire in the human being which propels them to win, or which helps them to win, that is what me. गुप्त रहने योग्य भावों में मौन. Now this is very interesting phrase. You see, it can be interpreted in two different ways. Some people say that if you stay mauन, if you stay silent, then you will be able to hide all the things and you will not disclose the things which need to be secret. So the secrecy can be kept by keeping silent. That is one way of looking at it. But that is not a very, correct meaning of this word. The correct meaning here is that When you start realizing the truth of our existence, then slowly and slowly you become silent. That depth of the reality of our existence slowly, slowly makes you silent and you become mourn in that sense. That is why you will find the people who are greatly saintly and who have acquired real knowledge, they slowly, slowly become silent and do not speak much. So, this is one of the qualities of the human being which comes out of their godliness. Once you become united with godliness, then you you become silent because you don't need to demonstrate anything. You are not looking for anything or looking for any pleasure in the world. So this has another quality here, that why do we advertise? Why do we publicize ourselves? Why do we do that? We do it because, firstly, depth of our knowledge is limited. Secondly, we have an inferiority complex, and therefore we come out and brag about our own selves, so that the people recognize your qualities. The people who have qualities, they don't come out and brag. They don't care what others think. They don't need publicity. Their happiness does not depend on who says what. Their happiness comes from inside. The people will keep telling you you are wrong or you are right or you are cruel and you are generous. These things will keep coming. So you don't depend on your happiness from outside. Your happiness, which comes from inside, makes you silent, and you reduce your, not only reduce, ultimately you become absolutely neutral to the viewpoint of others in the world. And that is what is silence. So he says that if you want to see the godliness, then you see into those people, in those people who have gradually become silent because they have acquired true knowledge of our existence and the reality of this world. And they have become one with that knowledge, one with that reality. And that is how this, they become very reticent in talks and they become silent. ज्ञानवानों का तत्व ज्ञान में. Now, this word tattva gyan has been used by Lord Krishna many times in Bhagavad Gita. You see, there is a difference between vidya and gyan, and this is time we understand that difference. We call it vidyalaya, we call vidyarthi. We don't call them jnani. Jnani is a very different thing. Now, Vidya is that process through which we acquire knowledge from books, from others, from teachers, from other experienced people narrate their knowledge to you, or the books which have been written by others. You read those books and you acquire Vidya. That is Vidya. So, Vidya is not your experience. Vidya is the external knowledge which is given to you either through books or through individuals narrating their experiences. Now that is Vidya. And Gyan is the one which you actually experience yourself. Let me give you an example. If somebody wants to describe sugar, he can write 1 or 2 or 10 pages on sugar, writing various things, but you will not understand what is sugar. You can read all those 10 pages, but once you put a small, particle of sugar on your tongue, you realize what the sugar is. That is the experience, that is the gyan. While the reading of those 10 pages is not gyan, that is only vidya. He is trying to explain what the sugar is, but you will not understand until and unless you taste that sugar yourself. Similarly, for example, you don't know the color. Somebody wants to explain you what is yellow color. Now, he can write pages on yellow color. He can say yellow is yellow. How do you explain in writing? You write, of course, but by reading that literature, you will not be able to understand what is yellow. But if somebody takes you to a flower which is yellow, or to a you know cloth which is yellow, and shows you that cloth, that this is yellow color, then that becomes your experience. You understand that immediately. That gives you gyan. So the gyan comes out of experience, and vidya comes out of reading and understanding others' experience. Like Neil Armstrong went to the moon. Now he has described moon how he looks. Now that description is vidya for us. But if you yourself go and experience how the moon looks, then that will be gyan. So you see the difference between Gyan and Vidya is Gyan is based on your own experience, and that is why the Sanskrit word Ge actually shows that the thing has become part of you. That is Ge. That has gone inside you, and that is Gyan. So here Tattva Gyan, not only Gyan, he is talking about Tattva Gyan. Now Gyan is the one which you experience yourself. Secondly, Tattva Gyan is the one which gives you knowledge of the fundamentals of our existence. The very fundamental of our existence is that universal consciousness, which we can call it, Paramatma, Bhagwan, Allah, Jesus Christ, doesn't matter whatever name you give, but that universal consciousness, which is there, at the base of every existence, that is actually knowing that is Tattva Gyan. So this is what he is referring here to Tattva Gyan. Then verse number 39. और हे अर्जुन, जो सब भूतों की उत्पत्ति का कारण है वह भी मैं हूं. ऐसा कोई चर और अचर भूत नहीं है जो मुझसे रहित हो. Now here he has come to the fundamental. Here he has come to the Tattva Gyan. Here Mai is not referring to Lord Krishna. Mai is referring to that supreme power. With him he has become one. And in Upanishad that power is called Brahma. So he is speaking as Brahma here because he has become one with Brahma. And he says that the entire existence comes into play, comes into existence because of me. I am the cause of existence or appearance of the entire char and achar. Char means the moving part of, the universe, and non-moving. Like for example, mountains, they don't move. They also move, but not in the visible sense, they don't move. Or the earth doesn't move in the visible sense, though it's always, everything moves, but not in the visible sense from the sense organ point of view. So in Vedas, they have defined char and achar, two variety of existence. The char is the living raceage, whether it is human being, animal, or any other race, and achar is the one which is nature, which is also moving but not in the visible sense. So he is saying that I am the base of the entire existence, whether it is moving or not moving, whether it is Jad or whether it is Chetan. This is coming back to the same verse, which in chapter 7 he said that I have two kind of energies, Parashakti and Aparashakti. Aparashakti is the one which gives birth to the 8 elements, that is Akash, Vayu, Agni, Jal, Prithvi, Man, Buddhi, and Ahankar. These 8 elements originate from Aparashakti. And the Chaitanya, which gives life to the various species of life, that comes from Parashakti. So here he comes back to the same verse, saying that I am behind I'm the force behind the entire existence, whether they are moving or non-moving existence. So this is where he ends this chapter practically, giving different examples of how you can recognize the godly power, or the what we call in Sanskrit Aishwarya, Ishwar and Aishwarya. We discussed these two words. Ishwar is actually reflected in Aishwarya. So every Aishwarya is actually the culmination of existence of that particular variety of existence. For example, a flower is blooming completely. That blooming flower is Aishwarya. That power which comes into that power comes from Ishwar, and that flower blooms. So that kind of thing he is explaining here, that whatever uh, you know the culmination of particular skill or a particular variety of power that comes from me, whether in the moving or non-moving part of this existence. Then he says, हे परंतप, मेरी दिव्य विभूतियों का अंत नहीं है। मैं अपनी विभूतियों का यह विस्तार तेरे लिए एक देश से कहा है। मेरी विभूतियों का अंत नहीं है, because it's very clear, because this whole universe is infinite. You cannot draw any line where the universe ends. So this whole universe is infinite. Naturally, if it is the projection of that power of the Almighty, then obviously His power is also infinite. And therefore you cannot understand that power through all these symbolic expressions. So he is saying that I have only enumerated a few expressions of that power in different species of life and different species or different elements of the nature. So he has explained that. Ek desh means he has taken a few examples in one particular category, one thing. For example, he says, Muniyon mein Ved Vyas. So he has taken all the Munis and he says Ved Vyas is, is an expression of the godly power in that. Not that others are not, but he is only taking one example. He is only telling you the highest expression of the godly power in that particular category. Or Pandavon mein, for example, he has taken Arjun, he says, you are the expression because he is the highest expression. Doesn't mean that Dhritarashtra and others are not. They are also. But he is the highest expression of the godly power. So this is what he has said, that my expansion is infinite. And therefore you don't have to get into that process. That will not help you. I am only telling you a few examples just to illustrate you that how I express myself in the nature and in the living beings in this universe. Then he says, now he comes to a very critical point here. Verse number 41. जो जो भी विभूति युक्त अर्थात ऐश्वर्य युक्त, कांति युक्त और शक्ति युक्त वस्तु है, उसको तू मेरे तेज के अंश से अभिव्यक्त जान. So whatever vibhitu yukt, whatever manifestation you see in the world, whatever manifestation you see, all that manifestation has come from my power, my Aishwarya, or my Kanti, or my prowess has given expression to that. So everything, whatever you see in the world, the power behind that expression is that power of universal consciousness. Without that power, nothing can exist. Now, universal, universal consciousness actually expresses itself both in char and achar. There are actually five forms visible in which we can see. In Vedic literature, they are called, you have mineral regime. Mineral regime is that solid earth and mountains and minerals, whatever. That mineral regime also had that consciousness power because they also degrade over time, they also change over time, and therefore the power is there but in a very low level, at a very low quantum. So that is the first layer or the first step of expression of consciousness. That's called mineral regime. Higher than that is plant regime. Now, plant regime, you can see plants growing, you can also see leaves coming out, you can see flowers, you can see fruits, but the plants don't walk, perhaps they don't talk. So, that visible expression is not there, but yes, some visible expression is there, but not like other living beings. So the first expression is mineral regime, then there's a plant regime, and then there's animal regime. Now, animal regime, the expression of consciousness is higher than the remaining two. There you can see, for example, you look at a dog, he is walking, perhaps they are talking in their own language, they have emotions, they feel hungry. So all that comes into play to greater extent than the other two regimes. So that is the third expression and somewhat higher expression than the remaining two of the consciousness. The fourth expression is human being, which is the highest expression of a universal consciousness because we have much more developed mind through which we can think, we can have intellectual discussion, we can analyze things, we can see how to regulate, how to control. So we have greater power compared to the other expressions of consciousness in the form of mineral, plant, and animal regimes. So that is the human regime, which is higher than the remaining three. And then the last one is, of course, the universal consciousness itself, which remains unmanifest, non manifest, which is not directly manifesting itself, it is manifesting through other vibhutis. Vibhuti means the manifestation. So that is what Lord Krishna is saying कि जो जो भी विभूति युक्त चीज है वो मेरे तेज से जान that expression, that manifestation which we see in the world all comes through his power. His power is behind that manifestation, and therefore you must understand that whatever manifestation you can see in this universe is all because of me. So here he covers the entire universe through this particular verse. He covers that whatever manifestation you see. Vibhuti means manifestation. Whatever manifestation, in whatever form, it's all because of my power, because of the power of the consciousness, universal consciousness. Then the last verse of this chapter, verse number 42. हत्वा, हे अर्जुन, इस सबको जानने से तेरा क्या प्रयोजन है? इस संपूर्ण जगत को अपनी योग शक्ति के एक अंतर्मास्त्र से मैं धारण किए हुआ हूं. Now he says there is no point in exploring and understanding this infinite number of manifestations in this world, because in any case you will go mad if you keep understanding everything that exists in this world. Nobody can ever understand. A doctor who is eye specialist, in his whole life he cannot even understand how the eye functions. He understands part of it but not fully. Or a person who is a heart specialist, in his whole life he tries to understand heart's functioning, but still he cannot understand it fully. So there are innumerable, infinite number of expressions in this universe, manifestation in this universe. There's no point in getting into that, rigmarole, which will lead you nowhere. It's like labyrinth, which you will completely get lost. So don't do that. all this expression has come from a very small fraction of my power, and therefore you should understand my power, that power of the universal consciousness, power of the Almighty, power of the Supreme, which gives birth to all this. So, at the end of all this, the conclusion is that you can see the world in so many forms, in so many manifestations. If you want to see God in the world, then you can see in each variety. Wherever there is higher culmination, you can see that directly. You can see Aishwarya of the Ishwar there. A player, for example, a great player, a footballer or a cricketer, you can see that Aishwarya is there, that power is there, expression of the Almighty is there in that particular player. But he says that, okay, you can see a good doctor, a good player, a good scientist, a good speaker, a good politician, whatever category you take, even a good river or a good mountain, you will find me everywhere. But there's no point in analyzing all that. You must understand that I am everywhere. And that is what is said in one of the verses in the chapter 8, that like in ice, there's nothing but water. Similarly, in this entire manifestation of this universe, there's nothing but universal consciousness. That godly power is behind everything which is expressing itself in different manifestations. So, this is the concluding verse of this wonderful chapter called Vibhuti Yoga. But before we conclude, I have a few things which I want to mention. Now, there's one word which we should understand, because that word is very useful in our spiritual, what you call, knowledge. This word is called vasana. वास मीन्स टू लिव. निवास, जैसे घर का निवास बनता है, वास बनता है. वास इज ऑल्सो द स्मेल, because that is also to live. That's also connected with living. Once you have that vas, means that thing is living in you and you are reflecting that vas. So vas means to live or to be one, like you have a nivas, you have a house in which you live, that is your place where you live. So what is vasana? Vasana means that you are not living with it because it's na, but at the same time, you are living with it because you desire it. Now, our mind always works, normally for the future, also in the past, but very often in the future. That, okay, my son is not getting a job, how we will get, we plan. You live in the future, okay, we'll get a job, in the next month, and this will be this will be this will be this. I have not won the election, but I am fighting, I will win. So tomorrow I'll become MLA or MP, and then I'll become minister, and then you plan for the future. You do that. My spouse has not given me this. Now I'll work for it and she will give me this. I have not earned enough money. I'll earn this and then I will use this money for this. I'll travel around. I'll go on the moon and I'll, go on the oceans and God not where all. So these are the desires which are called vasana. Why? Because they live with you and they take you in the future. So the future is directly connected with vasana. If you don't have vasana, then there is no thinking in the future. The thinking in the future arises because of the vasana, because you have certain unfulfilled desires, and those desires drag you to the future. That I'll do this, I'll attain this. So these tendencies keep coming in our mind again and again. And that is we call vasana. They take you to the future. And in effect, because of that thinking in the future, Your present is often spoiled. Whatever you have available with you, you are not able to use that properly. I know many people who are extremely rich and they are not able to use their resources even for their own welfare, even for their own consumption, because they have a thinking, no, I should accumulate, I should invest there, I should buy that house, I should buy that car. They keep thinking in that direction, I should set up that industry and I'll do that and I'll do that. And they are not able to use those resources even in the present. So they spoil their present because of the future, and that comes because of your vasana. Because since you have a vasana, you have a desire which is unfulfilled and you are working for it. You keep working for that desire in the future, and you are dragged into the future because of that. So you live. Now, either you live in your thought process, sometimes even in dreams, eh, and you live on the basis of those vasanas in the future. That is one of the reasons that we come back to this world, because our desires remain unfulfilled, and they can be fulfilled only if you have time. And how will you get time? Because once you are dead, even if that time of that moment of your life when you are about to die, if you have certain unfulfilled desires and vasanas, obviously you will have to come back to fulfill those, and that process continues. In this respect, I would like to tell you a story of a famous king Yayati. He is one of the great predecessors of Kuru dynasty. Now, Yayati, uh, he was a very, king lived in very ancient times. He had, as you know, the kings that time used to have many wives and a lot of luxuries and palaces. So he had all that. And he became almost 100 years old. And the death came to ask him, now it's time to go, let's go. So he said, no, no, I have not, done this, I have not done that, I have not done that. I want to live another 100 years. So give me some time, because he was suffering from these vasanas, unfulfilled desires. So the death, god of death, told him that if one of your sons agrees to sacrifice his life for you, then yeah, we can give you 100 more years. So he asked many of his sons, they refused, but the youngest one agreed. He said, listen, if you could not satisfy your desires in 100 years, what's the point in living? I better give my life for you, and you live and try to satisfy your desire. So he gave up his life, and Yayati lived for another 100 years. And then after period of 100 years is over, death, god of death again came and asked him, now it's time to go, let's go. So he said, no, 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 I have so many more desires, this desire, that desire, that desire. They are all unfulfilled. So give me another 100 years. So this story continued for 10 times up to 1000 years. So it's only a story. The Yayati lived up to 1000 years, and still his desires were not fully fulfilled. So this story tells us that these vasanas will never come to an end. We have to bring them to an end. Otherwise, we will continue to live in this world forever. And that is what happens with us. We have perhaps lived millions of billions of lives here, and we will come back if we continue to remain with vasanas till the end of our lives. I'm telling you this here because we had reference to the moon. Now, moon was the place where when your desires, your vasanas are completely settled, disappears, then you become silent and quiet. And that is where the moon is the result of end of vasanas. It signifies that your desires have come to an end, and now you are not looking for happiness outside anywhere or in any other person outside. You are already happy and you are contented, and therefore you have become quiet, you have become silent. So, in that context, the concept of vasana is very important, and also in the context of so many manifestations, we don't have to go and try all these manifestations because they will lead to frustrations. These are the examples given by Lord Krishna just to tell you that whatever, wherever, in whatever form you want to see the Almighty, you can see that. But it does not mean that you have to go and try and see everywhere. No, that would lead to frustration, and that is why he has told at the end that don't do that exercise. You can understand me alone because I'm holding this whole universe with a fraction of my power, and therefore you don't have to do this journey of exploring millions and billions of objects in this world to understand the God. To understand the God, you can understand in your own self, or you can understand in mon, or you can presume that everything which manifests itself, all the vibhutis which come into existence, they come into existence because of that power of consciousness. So this is what this chapter tells us. This is a very useful chapter which is telling us the futility of going here and there and exploring uh, you know, uh, different objects just to find out where is God. So we don't have to go do that. The God is everywhere. Wherever there is ice, there is water. Therefore, wherever there is manifestation, there is Almighty. So with these words, we conclude this chapter. Thank you very much for your patience hearing. It has been a great experience to understand and to talk about these, very, what you call, detailed expression of the universe in the words of Lord Krishna. Thank you very much.